Erev Tov. So we spoke already several times about the matzot. I think we covered it pretty good, not too bad. So let's go on and move on to the other important mitzvah, which is for Passover. What is the most important mitzvah? To read the Haggada. Right? So it says right in the pasuk, "V'higadata lebincha." Right? The pasuk says in the Torah, you have to tell your son, the story of the Yetziat Mitzrayim. So this is from the Torah. This is a mitzvah. It's not from the rabbis. The Torah tells you've got to read the Haggada. So that means, right, that a person has to read the Haggada, and he has to read it in a way that people understand what he's talking about, right? What does that mean? If it's in Hebrew, he has to translate it for them, in a language that they understand. English, Russian, whatever it is, right? You have to explain it to them. What does it say there? Don't just read it, nobody knows what you're talking about. You also don't know, maybe you also know what you're talking about. So then what did you accomplish by that? Just reading it like that. You didn't do nothing. The whole point is that people have to understand. So if you don't understand Hebrew, get a translation. Get a Russian one, get an English one, right, and use that one, right, and read it for the family. Otherwise, what did you accomplish? You didn't do nothing. That's the thing, right? So you got to read the Haggadah, and the reason why it's considered to be such an important mitzvah, reading the Haggadah, is because the Masoret, the tradition, of our religion, of our culture, comes from here. You know what I mean? This is a Masoret, our tradition is there, from here. We know, right, that we left Mitzrayim and HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out from there and He gave us the Torah and all these things, right? So we have to know this. This is the most important fundamental issue of Judaism. So it's Masoret, tradition, passing on tradition from one generation to another. That's why the halacha says that, when for Passover night, the proper thing to do is what? Let the children sleep, in the afternoon. And then they're going to stay up, at night. They're not going to fall asleep early because they have to hear the Haggadah. So you have to make sure also children hear. Why? Because the children, that's the most important thing, to give the Masorah, to the tradition to the children, to pass it over from one generation to another. If you didn't do that, what did you do? You didn't do nothing, right? That's why the halakha is very strong about this, very vehement. It says, right, that we do all kinds of things, to make the children ask questions, to make them curious. What do? Number one is we give them, right, all kinds of treats, right, to make them ask, why are you giving us so many treats today, candies, all kinds of good stuff, sweets. We give them, and they're going to be asking, what happened today? What manishtana, right? The laila azeh. What happened, right? What changed? All of a sudden, you're being so kind to us, so nice. Oh, what happened, right? And we do another thing, right, which is what? That when we start reading the Haggadah, we take away, the table, right, and we bring it back. Right, how that works, right? You stop, you take it away, and you bring it back. Why? They should ask, what happened? Why did you take away and then you bring it back? What happened? Not the whole table. I'm talking about the food, right? The plates, the trays. Yeah, it says in the Haggadah you have to do this. Right, exactly. At that time, we take it away, we bring it back, and they're gonna, what's the manishtana? What happened? Manishtana layla. Again, right? We're trying to stimulate them to ask questions. That's why we do all these changes. We change everything, And that's why it says in the Manishtana, right? When we read the Haggadah, it says in the Manishtana 4 questions. One of the questions is over there, usually we don't eat like this, we don't eat like reclining like this. Why tonight we're eating reclining like this? What's going on? Again, right? Same thing. We're doing all kinds of things, to change, to make them ask questions. Because the most important, way, the most strongest way that the Masoret, tradition of Judaism is passed down is the Lela Seder. The Haggadah, when you read the Haggadah. This is the real tradition of the Jewish people, the whole story there, the whole Megillah, that's the whole thing. So if you don't do that, right, what did you accomplish? You didn't really do nothing, right? That's the whole point of the Seder night, to bring the tradition to the Masoret. So that's why, you got to make sure you got to have a good Haggadah, which has translation, and you can explain it to people. Everybody should have also the Haggadah to follow along. You know what I mean? And you have to explain it to people. Make sure they understand what's going on, what the story is there. Okay, that's right. So this is a very, very big thing, for Passover, the biggest mitzvah. That's what Maran, Rabbi Yoshua, he used to say. The biggest mitzvah is to read the Haggadah. That's the number one thing, Passover. Even though eating the matzah is also, as we said, right, very, very important. But this one could be even more, because the whole Masoret, the whole tradition is based on this. Okay. So that's the Haggadah, right? So make sure you gotta read this. 2 nights we do over here, right? Because we're not in Eretz Israel, we're outside, so in the diaspora. So we're not going to bomb shelters, but we have to do 2 nights, right? So we got to do it twice. Over there, they only do 1 time, right? That's the way it is. By the way, which one is better, to do like we do 2 nights, or they do over there 1 night? Which one is better?
2 nights.
Which one is a higher level? So what they say, right? In the Kabbalah, it says over there that the tikkun that they do over there in 1 night is bigger than what we do in 2 nights over here. It's bigger tikkun. Why? Because it's Eretz Israel, Kadosh, Eretz HaKodesh, It's a holy land. So over there, the tikkun is much bigger, even though they only do once, but that tikkun is big. Over here, we're struggling, we're in Chutz La'aretz. It's not Makom Kadosh. It's Makom Tameh, it's not a good place over here. So that's why we're struggling, we need 2. And we still can't catch them. Even though we're doing 2. That's the thing, right? So you see from there, right, again, right, how important it is to live in Eretz Israel. Living in Eretz Israel, They say it's compared to doing all the mitzvot, if you live over there. They say if a person walks 4 amot in Eretz Israel, 4 amot, he has a portion in the world to come. Just because he walked 4 amot in Eretz Israel. That's how big it is, Eretz Israel. It's a big thing. It's a big deal. So, right, that's why we have to try to, to move over there if we can. We're not obligated to do that. The ones who live there already, they already live there, they're not allowed to leave. But the one who didn't live there, he's not obligated to go and live there, but it's a mitzvah, to try to go if you can. It still is an important thing. Okay, very, very good. So let's talk a little bit about now the issue of the other mitzvot that we have, right, on the Seder night. Right? We spoke about the matzot, as we said. Now we're going to speak about the maror. I'm sorry, but you're excuse me, sir. You're bothering me. No, you cannot translate. Translate later, after. You cannot translate in the middle of the shiur. Otherwise it's bitul Torah. It's bothering everybody. So, as we said, right, that another important mitzvah that we have is the maror. So we have to do the maror. So in the Gemara, Masechet Pesachim, it brings over there, what is maror? Which one is it, right? Which is the best maror? Which is the proper maror? So over there, the Gemara brings over there 5 types of maror. They're all kosher. 5 types. So there's all kinds of different things there. There's lettuce, right? Romaine lettuce, not the iceberg lettuce. Romaine lettuce is one. In Hebrew, this is called chasa, right? Then we have endives, right? Chicory, all kinds of things like this, right? Which we don't use very much nowadays. We don't use very much. If you go to the store, you can find it, but it's very bitter, Not really doesn't taste so good, And also there's the worst one, right? Which is the one that they use the Ashkenazim, the horseradish, right? The chren. Why is this the worst? Because it kills you, You swallow this. You can go to the hospital with this thing, It's so bitter. It's not really very pleasant experience, to eat this chren. Especially because you have to eat a kazait, Kazait is 30 grams, 27 grams, It's a lot. So can you imagine if a person eats 27 grams chren? He's going to choke. Who can handle such a thing like that? That's why, it's better not to use chren. I tell you, honestly. So then why do Ashkenazim use chren? Why? What, they don't know that this is not the best one? They know. They know. Everybody knows. Nobody's stupid. So why do Ashkenazim they use chren? Why? What's the reason why? You know what the reason is? Because over there in Europe, where they lived over there, they didn't have romaine lettuce, It wasn't coming over there. It's a cold climate there, So romaine lettuce doesn't grow there. Romaine lettuce grows only in warm climate. California, places like this, right? Warm, hot. It doesn't grow in Europe, romaine lettuce. That's why they import it, over there. If you go to Europe, right, they have it, but they import it from other places, which are warm climate. That's what they do. They don't have it over there. That's why, they were using chren. Why? Because they didn't have romaine lettuce over there. They started to use chren. This is the worst one. So why do I tell you this? Because, we also, some of our communities, the Sfaradim, we also started using chren. You know why? Because we did like the Ashkenazim. We started copying them, imitating them. Monkey see, monkey do, right? As they say, right? It's no good. It's not a good minhag to use chren. So that's why, now that we have Baruch Hashem, we live in a place where we have everything. Everything is available, right? She'asali kol tzorki. We have everything, Baruch Hashem. So go buy now romaine lettuce, Don't bring chen, the chen is no good. Very too bitter, too sharp. It's going to kill you, this thing, You're not going to be able to eat it properly. So that's why, better not to use it. Also, it says in the Gemara there that, as we said, right, the best one, even though there's 5 types of maror, but the best one is romaine lettuce. Please don't talk. I'm sorry. If you don't mind. Just listen. The best one is romaine lettuce. Why is romaine lettuce the best one? Anybody know why? What's the reason why? So they say, right, it resembles the galut of Mitzrayim. They say that when they went first to Mitzrayim, right, went down there with Yosef HaTzadik, Yaakov Avinu, it was a nice galut over there. They were treating them like kings, like melachim. They got a lot of kavod over there, because Yosef HaTzadik was melech over there, and Yaakov Avinu was considered to be, like a man of God, like a prophet. So they got a lot of kavod. But what happened was, eventually, as they died, that family, the Shvatim, they passed away. All the 12 tribes, they passed away. So what happened was, after they passed away, little by little, the galut started getting very bitter over there. More bitter, more problems, more issues, slavery, bondage, right? All kinds of things, suffering. They were being abused, and it was terrible, So that's, the chasa is like this, the galut of Mitzrayim. What does that mean? When you start eating from the top, it's nice and sweet, Once you get to the bottom, it gets more bitter. just like the galut of Mitzrayim, Right? It started sweet, but ended up very bitter, That's why the chasa is the best one. But the only thing is, with chasa, if you want to use the romaine lettuce, what you got to do is, if you're smart, you go to the Jewish store, Wasserman, what's that one on Casino Boulevard? What is it called? Aaron's, right? Aaron's, yeah. You go over there, you buy a special kosher one, which is grown in the greenhouse. They have no bugs, no worms over there, So they're nice and clean, no kosher, So you buy this one, all you do is just wash it in the sink a little bit and you can eat, But if you go to the supermarket, you buy, there's 500 bugs over there, inside one romaine lettuce over there, worms, bugs, all kinds of things. They're not clean, this one, you understand? That's why it's better to use the kosher one. If you can go to these stores, and buy over there, much, much better, and this way you don't have to worry about it, There's bugs in there, there's worms, nothing in there, it's clean, 100% clean, everything is good. So you just wash it a little bit in the sink, and it's ready to go. So this is the best maror. So, as we said, right, you have to eat a kazait of maror, so it's not just like a little bit, because the karpas, the karpas we don't eat much, right? We make it very small, especially small. We don't want to eat big karpas. What's the reason why? Anybody know why? Because karpas, right, the thing is, you're not allowed you shouldn't have more than a kazait, because then there's a question, maybe to make a bracha achrona, bor nefashot, on this, So in order not to get into the safek, the doubt, about this is the reason why we eat karpas very small, less than kazait. So when you cut the karpas, which is celery, right? Karpas is celery, right? Don't use a potato for karpas, like the Ashkenazim, Also, same thing over there, right? This is the wrong one that they're using. The ones that they're using potato or carrots, this is the wrong one. The real karpas is celery. Of course, right? This is the real thing, the real one. So therefore, right, get celery. Don't use the leaves, use the stalks, the sticks, right? Cut them very, very small. Because this way, right, you're not going to eat a kazait, and you won't have any question about if you need to make bracha or nefashot. But when it comes to the maror, right, you have to eat a kazait, just the opposite, right? You have to eat more, So it has to be 27 grams, at least like two leaves, 2 leaves of romaine lettuce. This is already good. It's kazait, And then you have to eat another one with the kricha. Right? When we eat the kricha, the sandwich, right? Another one. So you're going to eat like 4 leaves of romaine lettuce, for the maror. And there's also a bracha for the maror, right? Alachilat maror. We make a bracha for this also, And when you make the borei pri adama on the karpas, you have to have in mind, also the maror, that it's also going to cover this. When we do borei pri adama. So for the karpas, right, what do? We wash our hands without bracha, right? No bracha. Why? What's the reason why? Because you don't make a bracha on vegetables, We don't make a bracha. Right? That's the thing, Only on bread we make a bracha, netilat yadayim. But for vegetables we don't make a bracha. So therefore, right, we wash without a bracha, and then when we do the seudah, we wash again with a bracha. Right? This is the way it's done, So as we said, right, maror. This is the maror. Very important also mitzvah, right? The maror. Here's the thing, right? Now we have also 2 cooked dishes, right? I'm sorry, please. I hear you, I hear every word you're saying. It bothers, it's very bothersome. So here's the thing, right? let's talk now a little bit about the other things, right? The other mitzvot there on the table. We have there the two cooked dishes, right? One is korban chagiga, one is korban pesach, right? It's like a zecher, it's not mamash really korban chagiga and pesach, but it's a zecher, it represents it. So it says in the Gemara, right? What are you supposed to use for these two cooked dishes? What are you supposed to put? Which dishes are you supposed to put? So Gemara says any cooked dish is okay, you can use anything, something which is cooked. You can use vegetables, or whatever, fish, whatever it is, God knows. But the minhag is to use what? To use one shank bone, right? Lamb, right? With a bone, and to use one egg. Right? This is the minhag, So if you can get those are the best, Shank bone. If you go early to the store, to the kosher store, you'll be able to get a shank bone, lamb. That's the best one, You cook it a little bit in the oven, nice and good. You can also buy ready cooked. Gatoi, they have. It's already cooked for you. It's already roasted. You can buy.
You're not supposed to cook, you're supposed to roast it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's roasted. Yeah, you're right. But the truth is that in the Gemara it doesn't say you have to roast it. It says any cooked dish is cooked. You can use cooked dish also. But the minhag is to use. As you said, right? As we said, the minhag is to use. Yeah. Right. But the thing is, that in the Talmud they didn't say this. It's just the minhag like this. To make it like more authentic. Right? That's why we use these things. Okay, so that's the true rule of a type. So if you can get those two, those are the best, right? For the cooked dish, one egg, one shank bone. If you don't have lamb, let's say they were finished. You went to the store, they said we don't have any more. Sorry, right? It's finished already. So get some chicken, put some chicken there, whatever, something, with a bone, whatever. It's also good. Any cooked dish is good, as we said, right? Anything which is cooked is fine. So just the minhag is to use like that, right? As if you can find. So if you can find like that, this is the best one to use. Okay, I'll say maybe one more thing, right? Let's talk about arba kosot. Right, so we have to do 4 cups of wine. Right? Each one has to be revi'it, right? At least. How much is revi'it? 3 ounces, minimum, right? Minimum 3 ounces. Yeah, that's it. So 3 ounces is good. If you use more, it's okay, but not too much, because if it's very big, you're gonna get drunk, If you get a big cup, you're gonna fall asleep. You're gonna get drunk and fall asleep. So don't use too big, 3, 4, 5 ounces maximum. That's it, Don't bring a big cup because it's not good for the arba kosot. So you bring, right? What's the best wine to use? Red wine, right? Now don't bring white wine. If you can find red wine. Why is red wine better than white wine? Better quality, right? They say the Chazal. The red wine is usually better quality than the white wine. The white wine is cheap, cheap stuff. Usually not so good quality. So, because the red wine, is strong, it's more, it can, I'll give you an example. How do you know red wine is better than white wine? Because you can age red wine, right, for many years, 20, 30, 40 years, you can age it, But white wine, you cannot age it that long. You know why? Because it's not such good quality. It'll spoil. So the red wine is much better quality than the white wine, usually. There are some white wines which are good, quality, like Chardonnay, things like this. There are. But usually, right, the red one is better. That's why they tell you, the Chazal, for Kiddush, arba kosot, use red wine. Don't use white. Are you allowed to use wine which is mevushal, right, which is cooked, pasteurized? Yeah. The answer is yes, but the Rambam says don't use it, but we don't pass like the Rambam, we go like the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says you're allowed to use it. Some people are machmir, they don't use mevushal. They only, like the Rambam, they use only wine which is not pasteurized. You don't have to do that, but, if you want to. There are some wines, which are not pasteurized, like Ramat Golan, over there in Israel, in Golan, over there, they have a winery there, which they don't pasteurize the wine. So if you want to buy that one, like Golan, Yarden, Gamla, all those companies, right? They're all the same company. They're not pasteurized, those wines, So if you want to get that one, to do like the Rambam, go for it, whatever, right? So the question is like this, right? Are you allowed to use grape juice, or you have to use dafka wine with alcohol? Does it have the alcohol, right? So the answer is no, it doesn't need to have alcohol. It can be also grape juice. So if you cannot tolerate wine, it's not good for you, right? Some people, they cannot tolerate. All kinds of problems they have, They have diabetes, I don't know, God knows, whatever. Intolerance, acid problems in their stomach. All kinds of things, So if you cannot tolerate wine, get grape juice. Right? That's the thing. I'm sorry, please. Mechila. So, as we said, right, grape juice is okay. Maran Rabbi he used to use grape juice. when he drank the Arba Kosot. You know why? Because he told us, he said, I'm already so old, I cannot tolerate wine anymore. I'm too old for this. I don't enjoy it. It's not good for me. You know what I mean? So I use grape juice. That's what he used, whatever. So you can use grape juice if the wine is not good for you, no problem, Even though there are some who say that it's good to use wine, better to use wine, because of cherut, because you're drinking alcohol, whatever. Okay, Bezrat Hashem, we'll continue next time. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'Amen. ולידי חנן כשומר, להצליח הקדוש ברוך הוא לעוזר כל ישראל, לפיכך חיבר להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר אדוני חפץ, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.